Oregon is going to be perfectly fine this weekend against Oregon State. I'm just not going to enjoy this game as much as I would like.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Thoughts on a couple of injured-ish Ducks coming on today's show. Trench play, Kyler Kasper, all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Oregon is the biggest favorite I can remember in my lifetime in a game against the Beavs. I cannot say that I track point spreads closely in my early years of watching this game. I expect Oregon to win big. They should. The Beavs are down bad right now. I mean, really bad. Texas Tech beat them in Lubbock last week, 45-14. They lost their first two games of the year at home to Cal, who actually looks good. Remember Jaren Kiave-Sangopolotele in his 1 hour stint at Oregon? Yeah, that guy is insanely good. He's a fun one. Go watch some highlights. That dude is making NFL throws as a true freshman. It's something to see. But in game 2, they lost at home to Fresno State, and it included a play where the punter drops the ball. He kicks it from the ground like a soccer ball, and Fresno State returns it to the house. The Beavs are running for less than 100 yards per game. And I'll get to the guys that, Oregon has to key on in this matchup. But Oregon's favored by 34 or 35 points, depending on where you look. FanDuel had it 34.5 last I checked as I'm recording this show. They're favored like that for a reason. Oregon is better at literally every single position group, including but not limited to the coaching staff, because there are serious questions about what's going on in Corvallis, and there are no questions about what Dan Lanning is doing in Eugene at the moment. So this is another opportunity for Oregon to get some things right. I think we'd all like to see progress in the run defense, which hasn't actually been bad and then was for 2 drives maybe against Northwestern, and then it was completely and totally fine. But certainly if Oregon State runs the ball against Oregon, then I will have a higher level of concern going into Penn State. But right now my concern with the run defense is about a 3. So the reason I said to begin the show I'm not going to enjoy this game as much is not because I think Oregon's going to get threatened with what would be a historic upset. I don't expect that whatsoever. At Autzen, no, I think the Ducks are winning big. The reason I won't enjoy this as much is this game used to feel so different, and there's always been a discrepancy my entire life. Since the turn of the century, Oregon has dominated this matchup. I don't believe Oregon State since 2000 has won 2 in a row. They haven't beaten Oregon by double digits since 2004. They haven't won in Autzen since 2007. That's not going to start on Saturday. There's always been a gap. But this game just has no juice. It has no oomph. And I remember when the winner of this game in 2009 was going to the Rose Bowl against Ohio State. That at its peak is what this game has been. And it's just not going to be as much fun to watch. I have a lot of friends, obviously being from the state of Oregon, this is just standard operating procedure. I have a lot of friends that are Oregon State fans. Several of them have already kind of checked out on the year. And frankly, they're just in wait and see mode with regards to whether their head coach is going to avoid an 0-5 start and whether or not he'll make it through the end of the season, or if he'll do anything to warrant being the head coach for 2026 in the New World Pac-12. I think that all sucks. I really do. Rivalry games are what make college football one of the biggest ways, maybe the biggest way, that makes college football, to me, more fun than the NFL. And I love the NFL. I watch it every week. college football is better, and I love getting to cover it. But this game having no luster, I heard Angie Machado talking about, she's over at Beaver Blitz, and she was talking about this game. I think her sentiments and just overall tone sum up how a lot of people in Corvallis are feeling. They're just defeated, dejected, don't care. Like, yeah, Oregon's going to beat the crap out of us. That sucks. It sucks. It's not as much fun. So, yeah, Oregon winning, great. But the sentimental, nostalgic part of me, I'm a pretty nostalgic guy. I miss when this game actually had excitement, juice, build-up, anticipation. And now it's just, yeah. Do I want it to continue? I do. I don't think Oregon State's going to be like this forever. It's going to take a pause in 2026, and will probably return starting in 2027. And hopefully by then, Oregon State's program is on an upward trajectory and can make a game competitive. Because when it's not competitive, in the past, when these teams were in the same league, you know what? It was fun. But now, it just feels kind of sad. There's picking on your little brother, and then there's taking candy from a baby. I mean, either way, you know, there's a political philosophy out there that justice is the advantage of the stronger, or basically the stronger side winning. And, you know, that's what Oregon's going to do here. At least they should. But, yeah, I mean, like, this is a rivalry game, and it falls flat. It just falls completely flat and doesn't feel like it used to. So, I think that's unfortunate. Anyway, getting to the actual game, quite the Ducks versus them bonus story. If you haven't seen that, go check it out on YouTube. Definitely pulls at the heartstrings in a lot of ways, especially for those of you with kids out there. But love that they told that story. I never knew that. It was a really cool thing to see. Malik Murphy transferred in from Duke in the offseason. It's one of the reasons I was pretty high on Oregon State going into this year, was they were going to have consistent quarterback play. And Malik Murphy is good. He doesn't always make great decisions. Through 3 games this year, the Beavs are 0-3. He's completing 62% of his throws for almost 300 yards a game, 6 touchdowns to 5 picks. Not a great ratio there. He makes a bad decision every now and then. Oregon's turned over each of the last 2 quarterbacks they faced. That should happen at least once again here with how they've been playing. But the run game, as I mentioned earlier, the Beavs are running for 71 yards a game, which is just... Remember when they had Jaquiz and James Rodgers? Yeah, it was actually hard to stop. This shouldn't be hard to stop. You should keep Oregon State under 100 rushing yards as long as the starters are in the game. And if that doesn't happen, okay, now we raise the concern level going into Penn State next week. Would probably be my number one worry going into what should be the College Game Day matchup in Happy Valley. So Oregon State this year has struggled to find an offensive identity. They've struggled to get out of their own way. They've struggled to stop committing penalties. They haven't run the ball well. They haven't been great defensively. They have allowed at least 34 points in every single game. Oregon should hit 40. They should absolutely hit 40. Interesting test for the secondary of sorts. Malik Murphy is a Power 4 caliber quarterback, and I know that because he led Duke to 9 wins last year. They brought in a different guy, Darian Mensah from Tulane, and Duke is off to a horrible start this year. They're 1-2, when they should be at least 2-1 or 3-0. So, you know, Murphy is good. He's not great, but he is good. And he is a legitimate Power 4 caliber starting quarterback that you can go win games with. And he's got 2 targets that Oregon will have to be on lookout for. You might remember Trent Walker. He had 8 catches for 68 yards last year in the game in Corvallis, 49-14 final. And Taz Reddix has come on a bit. He's tallied 15 catches for 213 yards. Neither one has scored a touchdown this year in the receiving end as wideouts, but I think it's a solid test. I think, frankly, these 2 guys, probably the best receiver tandem that this Oregon secondary that I think we're all enjoying watching has gone up against to this point. So, you know, those are things that I think are real data points you can take, even though Oregon State has struggled as much as they have. I don't know that you can. Yeah, the receiver from Montana State was good. He'd be the number 3 guy on this Oregon State team. And Oklahoma State had a couple guys. Maybe they're number 1. their top wideout would be a go-to on this Oregon State team. He would not be the number one. So curious to see how they cover those two because those I think are a couple of real solid receivers. Not the best. They're not as good as Penn State next week, but like the game in general, it's a tune-up opportunity. And Trent Walker and Taz Reddicks, they can play. And they've got a guy throwing on the ball who can make some serious throws. He can make some serious mistakes, but he can also make some pretty serious throws. So curious to hear your guys' thoughts. I know there are a lot of older fans out there who have seen this rivalry evolve over the years, and Bryce Betcher and Jerry Mixon have given quotes that are indicating that it's still alive and means something, but it can't possibly feel the same. I hope it does in the locker room. It doesn't to me. But I'm curious to see what you all think. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. DeCorian, Noah, are these guys playing this week? Are we wanting to see them play this week? Thoughts on that and the offensive line. First, this episode brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on DoorDash. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. De'Aaron Hill gave Oregon a spark, gave you that peace of mind that said, okay, this Northwestern game's not going to get crazy. De'Aaron Hill is awesome. I think we'll see a good amount of him this weekend because Noah Whittington may or may not play. We'll see. Oregon shouldn't need him, and De'Aaron Hill looks awesome. The more reps you get that guy, the better he gets, and man, he looks good already. And how about Jerry Mixon, man? 2 straight games with a pick as a linebacker. I don't know the last time that happened. So those two guys deliver for Oregon just like DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250. That's pretty good, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms applied. Promo period through November 18th. Check out DoorDash today. Oregon is a 34.5-point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel. You know what? I'm going to double check that right now in real time. FanDuel's got all sorts of stuff over there. I mean, all sorts of stuff over there. And it's up to 35.5. So that's an interesting pivot point. Oregon went over 4 touchdowns last week. Northwestern covered. Do you think they'll blow out the Beavs and it'll be an Oklahoma State splattering 69-3 sort of game? Well, then guess what? FanDuel's right there, 35.5. If you want to do what I would usually do in a rivalry game and take the points, that's my general rule of thumb. I don't know if that FanDuel line is, it should be big enough. 35.5 is a lot. That's a lot. You got to be over 5 touchdowns. This has to look like Oklahoma State if Oregon's going to cover that spread. That's what it comes down to. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Your first $5 bet, if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Pretty cool. FanDuel.com. Place that first $5 bet. Check them out at FanDuel.com. I'm very interested to see what the responses will be on just the overall feeling of the Oregon State game going into this one, because this is the one where it feels like there's been the biggest gap. So Oregon should win big, but hey, rivalry games, you never know. You never know. We don't know if DeCorian Moore or Noah Whittington are going to play this week. I want to start with DeCorian. If he does wind up playing this week, and I haven't seen anything get released publicly with regards to what exactly happened, how dinged up he could be. If he does play this week, I do think that's a good sign. The staff is fully aware that they don't need DeCorian Moore to beat Oregon State. So if they feel confident putting him out there, that means he's gotten a clean bill of health from the medical team, and they think that what is to be gained with regards to timing with Dante Moore and continuing to build DeCorian's confidence and work on stuff in the build-up to the Penn State game is greater than the risk of injury. If they're making that calculation, then DeCorian is probably fine. If he doesn't play in this game, well, Dan Lanning will get asked about it at some point. But I think that if we see DeCorian this week, we should feel good that he's healthy. I'm optimistic he'll be okay. I don't know. I cannot say with any certainty about that, but everything kind of cooled down. All that information was getting leaked and rumored and speculated, and then it cooled down. I have a hunch. Just a hunch. It's just that. I have a hunch we'll see him this weekend, and that'll be okay. But we'll see. We'll see. If we do see him, hopefully that's a good sign. For Noah Whittington, the Oregon running game last week, the questions were about the run defense, but I actually had more of a concern with the run offense. And, Northwestern's defense looked physical, and they looked fast, and they're very well coached. They just don't have enough talent to keep up with Oregon. But I was far more concerned with the run offense than I was the run defense against Northwestern. And Noah Whittington has been nothing short of magnificent this year, over 11 yards a carry on the season. It sounds like he could have played last week. He was in pads and he was there, but, they I think kept him out as a precaution. I'm fine if they do that again, because unlike DeCorian Moore, who's a true freshman that's played 3 games of college football so far, reps have a lot more value to him, contrasted with a potential injury risk, than they do for Noah Whittington. Noah Whittington's going into his 5th, he might even be in his 6th year of college football, because he came over, this is his 4th year with the Ducks, which is crazy. He's just so quietly had such a good career. And he was, oh my gosh, yeah, he was class of 2020. This is his 6th year of college football. So, he and Gary Bryant, same age, wily veterans in the locker room and on this roster. If they have to miss some time and you got to be careful with them. We know what they are. They don't need the reps. They just need to be fully healthy. And we've seen how dangerous he can be. I don't think his presence last week would have made a huge difference, because in that first half in particular, until De'Ara Hill busted that big run, Jaden Lamar didn't have anywhere to go. And I think Jaden Lamar made the most of what was just not a great start from the offensive line in the Oregon rushing attack. So I think that if Noah is also a go this week, that means he's fully healthy. But if he gets held out, then it's probably precautionary more than anything, and they want him fully rested for Penn State, which will easily be the most physical team that Oregon has played so far this year. So this question from Jeremiah, who is over on Locked On Marlins. Jeremiah, congrats. I believe you are the first person who's a member of the Locked On Network to send me a question on the show. Love that you tune in. How would you compare the O-line and D-line to previous Oregon teams? Are they better or worse, specifically 23 and 24? So let me start with the defensive line. I at this time love Oregon's defensive line. Currently, I'm taking the 2024 defensive line over any of the 3. So if I were to rank the 3, which is what I'm going to do here. On the defensive line, I'll say 2024 is the best, followed by 2025, then 2023. Not that 23 wasn't good. They were a significant improvement, but 24 and I think 25, just a lot more game records up there and much more depth, which goes back to how Oregon's recruited the position. For the offensive line, I take that 23 unit, quite frankly. And at the moment, I didn't expect to be saying this. I need to see Penn State first. But frankly, I'd take this current Oregon O-line over last year. They have gelled so well and have been, aside from, what I was just talking about with the run game against Northwestern and early kickoff, I think can mess with you a little bit there. They should have a bounce back this week. Oregon State in the trenches, not good enough. They should not be even close. And they haven't been for the last 2 meetings against the Ducks. So that 2023 O-line was insanely veteran, really, really good. It didn't have peak Josh Connerly. Everything, you had Jackson Powers Johnson, though. And man, that guy was good. That guy was really, really good. So I'll take the 23 O-line first, but I mean barely over 25 and then 24. And this is first world problems, which is a phrase I use a lot here on the show because that's what Oregon has in recruiting and in football. Think about what your biggest concern is for Oregon football right now. Okay, these are not problems compared to what Oregon State is dealing with. Those are actual problems. UCLA's got actual problems. Virginia Tech, Florida, these are programs with actual problems. Oregon's got high class problems. So when I rank a unit last, that doesn't mean I don't think it was good. All these units have been good. It's part of the reason Oregon's been really good and successful the last couple of years. But yeah, I'll take that 23 O-line followed by this one and 24 last on the defensive line. I'll go 24 and then 25 and then 23. So that was fun. I don't think I've done something like that before. But yeah, I mean, part of me is like, save it for the off season because that's good content out there year round. And it's evergreen too, if I ever want to get ahead on shows going out of town or something. But yeah, I'd say that Oregon's trench play, as good the last 3 years as I can ever remember it being. And I started with Mario, and Dan has picked up the torch and really carried it on. So, Jeremiah, thanks for the question, man. I've got a question about polls. I've got a question about Kyler Kasper and how badly should you want to go to Penn State? I will tell you all of that to end today's show. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork to play design, everything is sweated by athletes when it comes to the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but an everyday drive, from smooth handling to intuitive controls, and you can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Nappa leather upholstery. Mazda's got it all. They care about the details. I do too. I'm a very detail-oriented guy on the golf course. Like Oregon's players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Go Ducks 777 sends this in. The preseason polls are the only reason any of them are ranked so high. It keeps others from being ranked where they should be. I know this is an SSA, by the way. I know we talked about it before, but how much more proof do you need? It's all smoke and mirrors to help SEC and ACC bias. There is not ACC bias out there. Yeah, SEC, yes. ACC, no. That, and so the journalists have more to talk about before the season starts. Ouch, I feel attacked. I could do without that if it means getting a more accurate ranking system. I'd like an SSA, and also for you to ask your audience what they think, because obviously you're biased too. I love you, Spencer, but you have a job to do. I get it, but I find it hard to believe you can keep the same energy after this bogus, pardon my language, he used a different word. We're G-rated here at the Locked On Network. So, preseason polls in general. No, I don't think they should go away. Even before I got into the content space, I never felt like they should go away. That doesn't mean they're always done correctly. Going back to the nostalgic part of me, this is a part of college football that doesn't exist in any other sport. We're not going to vote on which teams get into the Major League Baseball wild card. The Mariners are just going to make me sweat it out for 162 games because they can't. Well, they have been playing really good baseball till they lost earlier tonight as I'm recording the show. But the importance of an AP poll and why you have to have it in college sports is because you have to remember, many of you that are submitting questions are diehard sports fans, meaning your level of knowledge just by asking that is higher than 90+% of sports fans. When you are dealing with a sport that has such large discrepancies in caliber of conference, caliber of schedule, caliber of wins, you need some way to give the public at least an idea of which teams are actually good. And you know what? I rip the AP voters all the time. There was literally one who went on a show recently and said, my vote doesn't matter. And that's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. You can advocate for a better process without advocating for getting rid of the process. But something that you should always come back to. Do polls matter? Yes, they do, including the AP polls, because it influences the difference between the AP polls and the College Football Playoff Committee. Not that big, because the committee members don't always watch as much football as they should, I've felt. However, when it comes to putting teams in the college football playoff, I cannot think of a glaring example in which the committee's gotten it wrong. I am more pro-committee than most, and I understand that. But I think that for the AP and the voting process, yeah, I do think that there should be perhaps I don't know how you'd enforce it. I would love to have a requirement of like, hey, you need to have seen at least this many college football games, or you need to have your reasoning, laid out. And people's votes are public. So, when Haley Sawyer made that just egregious comment, yeah, people can go and tweet at her and drag her for it. And she deserves that, because when you say something, when you're in a position of power in this sport and you act that recklessly, yeah, you deserve to be held accountable for it. So I get where your frustration's coming from. The SEC bias is definitely out there. We're starting to chip away at it, though. SEC didn't get what they wanted in the playoff last year. And if the SEC doesn't win a national championship this year, it's going to be really hard to ignore the fact that, well, yeah, they still recruit really well and on average higher than other conferences. But, man, they used to at least be in the title game each year. Now, Georgia looks really good. Gunnar Stockton's a player. They could definitely get there. I'm just saying that narrative is starting to shift. Yes, SEC bias is there. My whole life, I've always thought, yeah, it's warranted too. But now it's not. Now it's not. That's why it needs to be called out. But in the playoff, you also have to remember with rankings, they do work themselves out. Give Haley Sawyer that that bit of credit, I suppose. Like it does always work itself out in the end. And by the way, Oregon falling 2 spots last week wasn't about Oregon and their performance against Northwestern. It was that Miami beat a ranked USF team handily that should still be ranked, quite frankly, and Georgia went on the road to a good Tennessee team and won. And that was really impressive. It wasn't about what Oregon didn't do. It was about what other teams did. So, this one from Michael. SSA question. Is this a sign? Well, he started with, wow, that was a beatdown. How good is this team? We're going to find out once they play Penn State. Is this a sign to go or stay away? I'm trying to make the logistics work to get to the Penn State game. My girlfriend's on board. Go. Last night, we were doing a sunset night, early hike. We hear mountain lion cubs. Okay. Oh, I see. We hear mountain lion cubs. Then a mama mountain lion darted 20 feet in front of us on the trail. Is this a sign to stay away from the Nittany Lions or go right into the lion's den? Go to the den, dude. If you have a girlfriend that is willing to go to the game with you, and it sounds like it might be a bit of a trek, dude, you kidding me? First of all, she's a keeper. Second of all, go to the game. Go to every game that you can, whether it is at Autzen. That's something that I love. I want to make this very clear. I love doing play-by-play for this school, for those of you on YouTube, for Southern Utah. I love it every single week. There's nothing like calling a game. It is electric. We're at UC Davis this week, which is a top 10 FCS school, and I'm stoked. Stoked for the opportunity to call that game. I love it. If I could change one thing, it'd be that Southern Utah played every single game on a Sunday so that I could go to more Oregon games. You only get so many chances, man, every year and throughout your entire life. There are guaranteed 12 days a year out of 365 where you can go to an Oregon game. And by the way, Penn State is one of the most unique environments and one of the greatest environments in a whiteout in all of, you will remember that for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. Dude, Michael, go. Go. Full send. You gotta go. You gotta go. 24 sent this one in. SSA, Kyler Kasper scores a touchdown this week. Man, I swear he's cursed. He's a red zone threat. That's what he goes in the game for. And they throw it his way, and he just gets grabbed because he's too big for the DBs he's going up against. I don't think it'll be different. Oregon State brought in a new player from Florida State via the transfer portal. That's a thing. And I presume he's going to play, or else he wouldn't have gone there. I don't know. We'll see. But then last week, he's open on a whip route, if the ball's put on his hands, he probably is able to lunge across and get into the end zone, and Luke Moga just throws it too far to the outside. And like this week, that's a 3. He's just had the worst, because most of the time that he's in the game and has a chance to score a touchdown, he's just getting grabbed. And it's like, well, it's not that he isn't a good player. It's just that, I don't know, he's getting mauled and they're throwing the flags. But yeah, the possibility is always there. I would love to see Kyler Kasper finally get into the end zone this week. But yeah, I just keep watching those moments happen time and again. And he can't get there. And I really hope he does. I really hope he does. But I've never seen anything like this before. Okay. This other one that's more fun with GoDucks777. I have an interesting take I think you'll appreciate. I like to look at Oregon as Weapon X from Marvel. Nice. And instead of iron sharpens iron, we have adamantium sharpens adamantium. That's an indestructible metal, by the way. Oregon's coaching staff's amazing in development. Skill level of the players we're bringing in is amazing. Makes it so that any team we play, we more than likely have seen better than what they have. It's almost like we have Wolverine, Deadpool. Oh, don't mention Deadpool. I can't stand Deadpool. And Sabretooth going against humans on the field. That was far more for me and you just nerd out a little bit, because I know we have that in common. Indeed, we do. Indeed, as you can tell, I'm enjoying this. Up to you whether you talk about it on the show. Well, it's my show. So, yeah, iron does sharpen iron. That's not just a mantra from a coaching staff. And guess what? When Oregon's ones go against each other, that's a lot tougher than what you're going up against this week against Oregon State. Sad reality, but it is. Even when you factor in going against someone else that you don't see all the time and you don't know all their tendencies and nuances and all that, like, yeah, that should still give Oregon State the edge. But yeah, I mean, that's a take I gotta give like an 8.5 to at least. I mean, the nerd stuff in there. Seriously, I can't stand Deadpool. Can't get behind it. Never have. Never will. Not a Ryan Reynolds guy. I like Welcome to Wrexham. I really do. Welcome to Wrexham is an awesome watch. Makes me love sports even more. I cannot stand Deadpool. But yeah, adamantium sharpens adamantium. That is how we end today's show. Scopa will be here tomorrow. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And go Ducks.